Working in the restaurant industry for over 20 years and developing leaders and teams for some of the biggest brands, some billion-dollar brands, one thing I got to see is what motivates people. And a lot of times your servers aren't bought in, your bartenders, your staff are not bought in because they're focused on the wrong things. They have the wrong why. And they're hyper-focused on money. They make decisions based off money. They bring in a toxic environment, a toxic mindset, a toxic attitude into your culture because of money. And it doesn't have to be this way, but we allow it. But how do we change that mindset and flip your culture? Well, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna talk to an actual server who's been working in the industry for a while, who has a good mindset, and we're gonna talk through how to fix this problem and how to lead your servers, bartenders, hostess, whoever, get them out of the money first mindset and to focus on something much bigger not only to your company, but to them. A mindset that'll make them successful and them successful in your business where everybody wins. This has helped scale and turn around over 350 restaurants worldwide. And you can do it for your restaurant as well. If you're a manager, if you're a leader, if you're a server, if you're a bartender, pay attention because this next hour is gonna be a game changer. So I'd like to know a little bit about how long you've been in the industry.
So on and off again since I was 16 or 17. I grew up as an actor and I went to a performing arts high school, somewhat like Fame, where half the day I was in my regular scheduled programming in my hometown high school. Then we were bused over to a arts high school where I studied theater. And my junior year, we did a production that was made in-house called Dance of the Tarantella. And it was a dinner theater show. And that was my first experience working within a restaurant type of environment because half of us were serving guests and then participating within the action while the other half of us were on stage.
Nice.
And I fell in love with the opportunity of just being at the table, making those connections. And from there went into teaching and then went back into the restaurant world in 2022 after my sister passed away. So it's been on again, off again, but for the last 4 years, consistent.
So what is your take? Obviously, I tell people this all the time. This is no secret or cutting edge, information, but we're on stage.
Yeah.
As actors, we're as servers, as bartenders in the restaurant industry. Everybody's on stage, and it's like amazing to me how many people don't get that or they lose sight of it, right? Because you're always on stage, not with your guests, with the whole restaurant, because everybody's studying constantly, right? You're just studying. That's human nature, by the way. You people watch. If you're sitting on a park bench, are you more drawn to your phone or to people watch? You're gonna probably end up people watching more, and naturally you want to people watch more. And so people are gonna always watch. They're watching what you're doing behind the open kitchen, right? They're what you're doing behind the bar. They're watching every freaking, that door's opening in and out. They're trying to get a peek, behind there. What are they doing back there when they think no one's looking? You want that viewpoint. It's so important for us to really understand what that is. So it's all about being on stage, which I appreciate. And I was just doing a piece on this where I'm like, when I go up to a guest, a table that's like upset, right? I always, I look very concerned, right? I make a conscious effort to look concerned. I widen my eyes and I'm listening and I'm like, that's unacceptable. I don't smile at once. I just sit there and go, I can't believe, I'm sorry. Unacceptable. I'm gonna find out what's happening. I'm gonna fix it. Can you give me 5 minutes? I'm gonna get you the right food out. First of all, I'm gonna make sure you leave happy, but can you give me 5 minutes, right? Because I think it's important to look concerned. And there's a saying that, which I totally live by, where if there's an issue, right? Either they're taking it more serious or you're taking it more serious. But if they're taking it more serious, you lose.
Correct.
Right? So you have to be like, oh my God. And so I think there's some serious acting that has to go on, right? That's unacceptable. 100% right, that's unacceptable. I'd be furious if I were you. I appreciate you being as calm as you are right now. Let me, so I always put on that act. So how do you feel about that?
I feel multiple things about that. So first and foremost, I think that acting is what we do. We're a team, we're on stage, we're a part of a show. And we're part of the show that is the brand, that is the value system of the specific environment that we're in. I've been very fortunate to work in diverse environments in restaurants. So I've been in dining rooms where we've had glass walls between the actual kitchen and the dining room space. I've been in dining rooms where you can't see any part of the kitchen because there's a huge wall in between separating what's happening in the kitchen and on the dining room floor. So I think acting on stage is a constant, and it's because we are human beings. As human beings, we feel different things constantly every day. We have thousands of thoughts that come into our head every day. Sometimes we'll be in front of a table and talking about the same rigor mortis thing that we have going on again and again and again. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about, oh, I need to call my mom as a guest is talking to me, or oh, I forgot to take out the garbage this morning. Maintaining that smile. So there is the acting component. The secondary component to it is genuine care and concern. I have always followed the last model. So listen, apologize, solve, think. And to me, that I might be a very special breed of human being when it comes to being a server because I do care. I do genuinely show up and can I swear? Am I allowed to say I give a shit? I do give a shit because my mentality for every role that I've ever had, whether that was sweeping or it's being the CEO of a company, is that we are all a part of a team. And that it is my position within this team to provide the services that I was hired to do. I'm also one of those people that grew up as an actor. So I was told, being on time is being late. You have to be early. Working with clean feet, showing up and leaving your shit at the door, and just being genuinely there for the people. And I think I found success through just being myself, which is just genuinely caring about people. So there are days that are harder. There are days where your personal life and your personal crap can't enter the facility. And that's working with clean feet every day and making that active choice. So what's also plausible is also saying, I'm making the active choice to care. I might never see you again. We've never crossed paths. You might be from Timbuktu, but I have the opportunity for this 90 minutes, this 45 minutes, this hour and a half to put on a show for you that you might not recall what you ate. You might not recall the name of your dish. You might not even remember my name halfway through the service and say, hey man, hey dude, hey sir. But that when you leave the doors, you want to come back and that you want to bring people with you because of how you felt while you were in my care.
So yeah, there's care, right? Always care. You should care. That's what people always ask me. They go, "How do we?" When you're being, like I say, be genuine, right? For example, you want to be genuine when you're talking your tables, and I'm like, "What's the best way to be genuine? Is to care. If you care about them, then you're going to be genuine, right? If you care about the situation, but what? Why do you care,
It's a choice.
bro? Yeah, but why do you care? What's motivating you to care?
I mean, so you start with you have to pay your bills. You start at the baseline of why am I here entirely? I'm here to make money. Um, I come into the service industry with 2 master's degrees outside of the service industry. I recognize I could be actively applying to positions within the field of study that I went to school for. But I choose to be in the hospitality industry because of the selfishness of the feelings that I get for being in this hospitality industry. I have the, as I said before, I have the opportunity to create and curate an experience for people that I've never met, might never meet again, but that they will want to come back, that they will have had this hour experience that changes parts of their lives potentially. The other day, on Mother's Day, I had a table come in. It was an 8 top, and it was a crazy day of service. As we know, Mother's Day is the craziest day. And when I went to the table, I always ask, are there any allergies? And I followed it up with, are there any celebrations? And a woman at the table looked at me and said, well, Matthew, I'm glad you asked because my grandparents and my parents don't yet know that I'm 13 weeks pregnant. And I got emotional. I got emotional because my family lives 3,000 miles away. I haven't seen them for 5 or 6 months. But in that moment, I got to be a part of something bigger than me, something bigger than I could have ever anticipated walking into. I got to be a part of a celebratory moment for this family. And then I have a table 5 minutes later walk in that says, I don't want to know your name. I don't want to know shit about you. And you can take my drink order and walk away. But choosing to be the same person at each of those tables, making that active choice constantly to be genuine, be vulnerable, and show up as your authentic self will always get you through the next door. And taking the weight off of what do I get from this interaction, the tip is never on my mind. The tip is nothing that I have control over. I have the control to be myself. I have the control to guide an experience. And why do I make that choice? Because I chose this job. I chose to show up. I chose to be here. So if I'm going to make that actionable choice every day, then it's my responsibility as a server to choose kindness and to choose to curate a party for every single one of my tables that walks in. I recognize that not everybody thinks that way, but that's what's made me feel successful in this industry.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty straightforward and kind of harsh about it, but we have a very entitled industry that we work in. It's extremely entitled, and not most people, I'd say 90% of people don't have your viewpoint. They have the viewpoint of, I'm here for tips, I make money, it's tip me, tip me, right? And it's about that, and that's what I'm here for. Why else would I be here? And if they should tip well no matter what. And that's important to understand, because that's, I think, what's broken truly when we have restaurant owners who come in, and these are sometimes really big groups that come in and say, I just can't get my staff bought in. I don't get it. I don't understand what it is. Why is it broken? Why don't they get it? Why aren't they bought in? And it's because they're coming in with the opposite attitude of what you have, right? It's not about the guest experience, it's about their experience, right? It's about me making my money, and it's about me bringing my shit into the door, right through the door, and into everybody's business. It's all about my drama, my section, my tips. And I see this, I've seen this said before. If you can't tip well, then don't go out to eat. That level of entitlement is insane. It's absolutely insane that's your thought process, right? That's how entitled we are. So what do you think about that quote?
I think that there are a lot of feelings that come from that quote. I am not a perfect person, and I have not always had this mentality. I have been in this industry long enough to know that there have been days that I walked out where my tip out percentage is below 10% before I tip out the rest of the staff. And those days suck. Absolutely. It's the worst feeling in the world to know that you're giving so much of yourself. And the way that my brain used to work, it was, well, how would you feel about going into your place of employment and receiving, an 8%, not feedback, but 8% of gratitude towards the work that you've done for the day, that my income is based on how you feel about me. I've worked in places where it was Southern themed. I'm an openly gay person. I've had men walk in, I've been hit. I've had knives thrown out the back of my head. I've had glassware slammed out of my hand. So I've had my fair share of really shitty experiences where you second guess yourself in the role, and you second guess, am I even valuable enough to be within this industry because of how I'm receiving feedback from these people that I don't know, and I don't get to choose who sit at my tables. So there's certainly a level of frustration and difficulty, especially on bad days where maybe it's 2 to 3 tables back to back who haven't tipped you. And I wouldn't be telling the truth if I said don't have those same feelings now. But once again, it's larger than me. I'm a part of a team. If I show up and I'm dragging my feet, the rest of the team feels it. Whether that be the busser, that be my food runner, that be my CEO, or that be the guy who washes the dishes. I'm a part of something larger than myself. And I have learned over time that if one table stiffs me, or if one table leaves me 5%, there's another table that's going to come in and they're going to make up for it. And that at the end of my biweekly paycheck, it always evens out to the same amount. So it's larger than worrying about the individual parts or the individual tables, and truly just giving that definitive service, because there are lots of people who are in this industry who say, well, I am here for fast cash. I'd be lying if I wasn't saying I was one of them myself. I have degrees outside of this world that I could be working within, but I choose this for not only the income, not only the lack of stress that I have when I get to walk out of the door and say, okay, my hands are done until the next time I'm in here, but that is a part of my value. That is a part of what I say, okay, I'm not working a corporate 9-to-5 job that expects more from me when I'm off the clock. Part of my income is saying when I'm not here, I'm feeding back myself. I can go and say, okay, I can design my schedule. I can take 2 to 3 days off and go on a trip. That's a part of what this industry gives me back. So the pieces of income that aren't financial are just as valuable as those tips are.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and that's my viewpoint as well, because there's a couple of things there. One is, yes, you get some freedom, right? You do get some freedom with this job, and so it's not all about the tips. Again, that's what becomes a focus, right?
Mhm.
I was also that person for a very long time. That was my focus, and I thought I was the best server in the world. You couldn't have convinced me otherwise. I was delivering the best hospitality. I knew what I was doing. I was the best in the room. I knew better than my managers. I knew better than the GM. I knew better than the owners. I knew better than everybody. I knew what I was doing, and I knew what was best for the guest. And ultimately, it took me getting a serious reality check in life, hitting rock bottom, to say that I didn't know, and that, that attitude actually really stifled my growth as a human being. And changing my perspective. And I was saying, you know what I care about is just giving the guests the best experience. That's it. That's all I care about. If they don't tip me, they don't tip me, right? But if I can have an impact on their lives, awesome. And just to strip away the judgment and say, I'm not going to judge them. But if they don't tip me, I can't. What is me getting upset and frustrated and irritated going to change? And so that's why I that changed. I was just focused, and it wasn't like that was my mindset, but I just started focusing on, I just want to give the guests the best experience, and that's all I care about, and put them in front of me, right? The business in front of me, my coworkers in front of me, be selfless in this act. And what that did was ended up, I felt much more fulfilled, right? The toxicity in my mind went out, but also I was working at the slowest restaurant with the lowest check average, making the most money I've ever made before in my life. Because I just was truly selfless, like truly just didn't care, truly just giving you everything, right? Like you said, we're giving you everything. So that's why I asked that question, because there's some things to it, because that's why I get frustrated. And I understand, first of all, I understand where servers are coming from when they have that mentality, because they're looking at it like this, right? Just with their blinders on, and they're just so hyper focused on the money and the tip and the number. But it always blows my mind, because they complain about money, right? They complain about tips. Well, my hourly and this and that, and like, this, they don't pay me enough. I don't make enough. Or they complain about the industry. But you have 2 master's degree. I came out of high school and I have no degree, right? So serving was the opportunity. Restaurants were an opportunity where I can make a living for myself without having to have an education. It provided me that opportunity. I'm freaking lucky and blessed that it existed. I don't know where I'd be without it.
Yeah.
And so, and everyone's kind of in that boat that doesn't have a degree, right? You're like, hey, I found a way I can make freaking a living for myself, and I don't have to go to school, and I can do it now, right? But what happens is you get the job, you start making the money, and all of a sudden it's, why are they not tipping me that much? How come they don't tip me that much? Why is it like this? Why are my managers like this? Why didn't I get that section? Why didn't I get that shift? Instead of stopping and going, wait, it's pretty freaking awesome that I got this opportunity in the first place, right? So if I do get a 5% tip, like you said, and this is such basic knowledge for servers that have been in the industry long enough. This should be basic knowledge, but it sadly isn't. But what am I making at the end of the month? What's that number? Is that good? Is that around what? Okay, cool, done, awesome, right?
I can survive.
Yeah, I'm good. This is what I was looking for. Awesome. Now, if all of a sudden that's 25% less or 20% less, I got to start having some conversations. But dude, I've just never had a situation where there's just a huge drop off. It's almost always on point, right? Almost always on point. And then if Christmas time comes around, all of a sudden that number goes up, but it's always on point. But so it's like, why sit there and get frustrated and get irritated and get upset and judge people and get angry at people and just let that toxicity fill you, instead of just saying, hey, it's all good, right? This is part of the cycle. This is part of the process.
Yeah.
Right? I am supposed to get L's. I'm not supposed to bat 1,000. No one's going to tip, because we're setting expectations. That's the problem. And that was my problem. I set expectations for the guest. You act a certain way and you tip a certain way, right? I set expectations for my coworkers. You guys need to abide by my rules and act a certain way. My managers and everyone else. And man, that was a not happy time in my life.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was constantly getting let down because people wouldn't live up to my invisible expectations I set for them. And so that's why I always try and tell people, I'm like, stop focusing so much on the tip. Like, let that toxicity out of your system. I promise you, things will change dramatically. And still, when I post something online about it, they'll be like I'll say, culture is so much more important. Like, when you're hiring someone, culture is so much more important than the top salesman. Because you've worked with someone, I'm sure, top salesman or best server, but worst coworker, right? Managers hate working with them. You hate working with them. You're like, guy's the worst, but he's like, I'm the best salesperson. They'll never fire me, right?
Yep.
And you're like, oh man, this guy's the worst. It's so hard to work with him. He makes it so frustrating. It's like a cancer in the culture is not gonna, like, the top sales doesn't even that out, right?
Right.
So that's what we really want to focus on. And so let me ask you something, because we're talking about, the guest experience. You have a really good grasp on it. What's the difference between hospitality and service, in your opinion?
I love that question. Can I tell you something funny too?
Sure.
Driving here today from work, there was a white bus that passed me that was for some local cafe. And on the back of it, it said, service is our motto. Hospitality is our brand. So I have read a lot of things about the difference between service and hospitality. I've heard that service is black and white and hospitality is color. I've heard that service is what we do and hospitality is who we are. To me, baseline service is transactional. Hospitality is relational. So you can go anywhere and get service. I can get service at the bodega down the street from my apartment in New York City. I can get service from the counter at McDonald's. I can get service from my car dealership. I can get service anywhere. I can get service with a smile. That's the next step up, where somebody's smiling and grateful that I'm there. Hospitality to me is the gift of why we do what we do. Hospitality to me is setting a party for every single table that enters your section. Even on the days where you're getting 3 or 4 3 or 4 tables immediately, you're getting flat sat right away. And even if you only have 10 seconds in your greet to go over with that welcoming aura, with that energy that says, I'm really grateful that you came today. I'm here to throw this for the next however long we're together. You might be in and out. You may not even look at me, but it's still my responsibility in this role to put on that show for you, to make you feel something, even if it's please go away, you're too much. So yeah, I think the opportunity that we have to truly turn someone's day around, we don't know what people are going through when they're walking through the door. Some people come in because they're hungry. Some people come in because they're hangry. Some people come in just to get shit off their back and put it on their server or their bartender. I've certainly had nights where people come in and they just want to sit down and tell you their life story because you're not a part of their lives. It doesn't matter, but it feels like free therapy. So I get that. I think that the work that we get to do and the work that we have to remind ourselves that we're responsible for is that when they're in our care, and this comes from a classroom motto of mine, I never get to choose my students, but I'm with you for 9 months. In hospitality or in the industry, I don't get to pick my guests, but I'm with you for about 90 minutes. Going from a 9-month period of working with families that, had biases or didn't like me from the get-go, it's, well, I'm going to see you every day for quite some time. With my guests, I have a much shorter period of time. So if you don't like me, you're going to get up and leave in an hour and a half, and you can choose never to come back, even if I give you my all, even if I continue with that service with a smile. And it's my job. That's my job. That's my role. That's my why. I mean, Simon Sinek is huge for me. His theory about our whys getting us out of bed every day and why we do and who we are. It's a part of us. It's a part of our buildup. So hospitality is the reason. It's what we get the gift of giving.
And I think that's important to understand the why, and that's what we talk about a lot is understanding and identifying your employees' why, or at least getting them to understand it and how it connects to their job and ultimately giving a hospitality experience, right? Why does it connect? Because your why is going to be different than my why, it's going to be different than his why, it's going to be different than her why. So what are those whys and how do we make a connection for them? Because not everyone's going to say, well, hospitality is my why, changing lives isn't my why, making people in a better mood isn't my why. They're just not going to see it that way, right? It might be, right? They're just not connecting the dots in their head where they're going, oh, wait, that does actually get me excited, right? Or that motivates me or that benefits me. Or the other flip side is they just don't see that it's possible, right? They're like, dude, we're serving burgers and beer.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, we're not changing anybody's lives. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's how they feel. But to your point, look, are we changing every person's lives that walks in the door? No, of course not. We can't have an impact, right? Because when people walk in the door, like you said, you don't know what they're going through. I don't feel like anybody's ever going to not come back because someone was giving them too much, right? They might say like, man, this is a lot, right? It's a lot of energy, but I'm not coming back because of that. I will definitely not come back if someone's just terrible or irritating or or just totally lacks care. But I always come back even if someone gives too much. And I always caution leadership of that, where I'm like, because I go, Preston, you got to make sure that you read the table. Yes, but reading the table is a dangerous game, because sometimes people are just different, right? So for example, if you come up, right, a server walks up to you and has a lot of energy, you're gonna probably give them a lot of energy back, right? And this guy's awesome. I love him. Like they're great, right? We're having that server's gonna read you right away and say he's gonna want this attention. Awesome. And then he might come up to me. I might be tired, long day, traveling, just flew in, got tired. I want to eat. He comes up and I'm kind of quiet, but that doesn't mean I don't want hospitality or that attention. It just means I just don't have the energy you have, right? So to say that we can read people, yes, you can, but that is a high level of emotional intelligence that very few people hold to truly read everyone. So I always say, caution with error and just go for it.
Yeah.
Give them the freaking energy, right? Like why not? Like just do it, because it's always going to be more wins than losses in that situation.
Absolutely. And I would go back to the idea of throwing a party. Not every party looks the same. If you're hosting, 2 or 3 friends over for a game night, that's going to look very different than a wedding. So the amount of detail, the amount of energy, the amount of ourselves that we put into each different party is similar to how we approach tables, or how I think we should approach tables. If I walk up to a table and the parents it's a 4-top, and there's 2 parents and 2 little kids, and the kids are both screaming and the parents look like they're going to rip their hair out, I'm going to approach that table very differently than a table that is an 8-top that has quinceañera balloons and the kids are all dressed up nice and happy. It's a part of our job to read tables. It's a part of our job to read body language. It's a part of our job to understand who we're greeting. I'm certain this has happened to every server at some point in time. You've walked up to a table, started your greet, and they don't speak English. And you go, okay, how much skill set do I have in my toolbox to truly be able to engage with this person when we don't speak the same language? I've been very privileged. I've gotten to travel a bit outside of this country, and I've had my own times where I walked into restaurants. My favorite story is I was in Paris, and my family and I went to a fondue place that a friend of mine had suggested, and the waiter was not very happy about the fact that we were not French in his restaurant, and no greet, no nothing, came over, and it was like, I don't speak English, you don't speak French, what do you want? And every time we pointed at a visual on their menu, because their menu were pictorial, he went, no. Okay, how about this one? No. Nope, 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 nope. And after the 8th or 9th nope, he turned around and walked away. And we sat there for a minute saying, are we going to leave? He just basically stormed off. And then about 5 minutes later, 9 plates hit the table. His no was essentially a what else? What else are you getting? So the 3 of us that were in this restaurant got enough food to feed a family of 36. And that to me is an example of the opposite of what we have the intentionality of doing here in our states. And yeah, I think it's a part of the job. It's a part of the job to understand who your people are and what they want from you. Because there are definitely situations where people want more energy. They want you to put on the show. And there are the people that are sitting down to tell their kids that they're getting a divorce and they don't want you there. And it's not to take it personal. My job isn't to be your best friend. My job isn't to get engaged to you after this. My job is to provide an experience for you to feel warm, to feel welcome, and to know that I'm here to take care of you. And taking care of you looks very different depending on your needs.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it for sure. And then there's also the piece where, and you brought this up earlier, where we're going to just have the fact that some people are just probably not going to be super friendly.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And sometimes, if you can flip that person, it becomes really powerful, right? Someone might just be having a freaking crazy bad day, bad month, bad, 6 things happen to them that changed their life dramatically. And they're short with you, but you overcoming that, instead of reacting like probably every other human being has reacted to them by going, okay, like screw you too, right? Screw you. Okay, cool. All right. I see it. Whatever, right? I'm just going to lean in with a little bit more kindness, right? Lean in with a little bit more care and empathy. I can see you're hurting.
Yep.
I can see something that's got a little bit deeper, and I'm going to lean in with a little bit more care. And then they just go, holy crap. Like that alone made me feel so much better. That there's someone that just cares enough to like, not just shun me when I'm like hurting and I'm reacting, but like, hey, like putting their hand out saying, hey, I got you. Like you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
And that has a huge impact, but it's the ego comes into play so fast.
Very cool.
Right? How dare you talk to me like that? How dare you disrespect me like that? I had a story of a guy we used to work with, and he was a server who he was someone that has a superpower where he could just never get offended, right? He just had that ability about him. Like he just never got offended, right? Just someone was even with other employees, right? They give him a hard time and he couldn't get under his skin. He just didn't, it just didn't happen. And so he had this table by one guy by himself. And it was lunchtime and I'm on the computer. I was a manager and I saw him walk up and he's like, "Hey, my name's Brett. You know, and the guy just stops him and goes, "Iced tea." He's looking at the menu. It's like this, iced tea. And then Brett goes, "Absolutely. Did you want a lemon with your iced tea?" And then he goes, "It's an iced tea. So yeah, I want a lemon with it. Did I say no lemon?" And then Brett's like, "Honestly, that is kind of a dumb question that I think about it. Yeah, I got you. Iced tea, lemon, coming right up."
Yep.
And so he walks away and I go in the kitchen and I'm like, "Hey, are you okay, man? Because that was a little harsh." And he's like, Brett's like, "I'm fine, dude. He's having a bad day, clearly. Like, don't worry about it." I'm like, "Okay." And so I went back like half hour later. I'm on the computer and I'm seeing them. This is another computer. I'm seeing them far away and they're like laughing together. And I'm like, "Fuck, Brett, man, so impressive." And so afterwards, the guy came up to me and he was just like, and I figured he'd be like, "Oh, Brett's awesome," and he came up and he goes, "Hey, are you the manager?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Brett over there, he's not just a good server or a good employee that he's a good employee that you have. But he's a freaking good person." And I was like, "Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, Brett's awesome. He's really good." He goes, "No," he's like, I had a really serious family death 30 days ago and I haven't smiled till today. So, appreciate him." And I was like, "Awesome." And you can hear like the heaviness in his voice, right? How serious he was. But I just tell people, I'm like, I always tell that story because I'm like, dude, you don't know. You just don't know, right? And it's like such a fast and easy way just to judge and get upset and shortchange that person. But like you said, this is the opportunity that we have. That's why the entitlement thing worries me so much and it's so detrimental because you're just totally watering down the ability that we have as a industry to connect with people, change people, help people, improve people's lives and change people because you just make it all about money.
Yep.
Right. And yes, we're all here to make money, but this is like you're looking at the wrong thing. You're looking at the smallest piece of the picture. There's something so much bigger, right? Like one day we're gonna be gone, right? What's the biggest freaking impact? What's the most important thing? It's people. It's not gonna be money. It's gonna be people. And like no one's gonna be like, "Oh man, remember Preston, he always got the most tips." Man, if he didn't, he would set those people straight. It's like the impact we're trying to have is the wrong. And so that's why it's a big deal to me because I don't not only do I care about like the industry and the people, but I also care about like the person, the server who's thinking this way. Because it's just a trap. And you've been in the industry long enough to know it's like, man, you end up in the wrong place and it's not fun when the party's over and you're the last one in the room. It's not fun, right? And it's sad. And not only are you the only one in the room, but you just have a decade or 2 decades of just pent up anger, toxicity in your head of with this industry, right? That you've just like let consume you. And all of a sudden you're the angry older server.
Yep.
Right? That's just always freaking angry. And it's like, and I hate that. And I'm like, especially with this younger generation, I'm like, I want to see them be more successful and have a chance of being successful and being happy. And that's why I'm like, but it seems like as time, tell me what you think about this, as time goes on, it seems like the industry just gets more toxic, right? And gets more narrow-minded, more about money, right? And myself, me, versus like what you just talked about. Seems like it should be pretty obvious, right? Like what you're saying, you're like, am I saying anything new here? Is this rocket science? But when you hear it, it's so rare, right? Because we've had interviews, not just here with servers, but I go in and I train servers and I talk to them and I have conversations with them all the time. And very rarely is this conversation when I talk to them, can they just articulate like, man, this is about the freaking experience, right? We can change people's lives and stuff like that. So what are you seeing from your side? Because you're working side by side with servers every day.
Yeah.
Over the past, decade, you've been working side by side with servers. What's the temperament out there?
Well, it's diverse. I mean, for sure. You have people that have been in their positions for decades in some restaurants. You have people that the retention, they get maybe 6 months to a year and then they jump to the next place. And I have this quote tattooed on my ankle, which is wherever you go, there you are.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt, it's in my aunt's handwriting, and the reason that I had her write it for me was because she and I are very close, but also she said it to me my entire life, and it's her mantra. It's wherever you go, there you are. And that is so simplistic, but so meaningful, because you showing up as who you are isn't going to change, no matter which restaurant you're working with, or which GM you're trying to impress, or which guests you're trying to get the most money from. How much can I sell? Can I sell? Can I sell? Can I upcharge? Can I add on a chicken breast onto the sandwich to add $10? Can I change it from the well vodka to the Tito's vodka? All of these little pieces inside of your head about selling, which is primarily our job. We're here to make money for an organization or a restaurant, the company that is the ownership of this company. But further than that, outside of just making those sales, isn't about the result of the tip. It's the result of their happiness in the moment. It's the result of I'm here to make money, but I could also go do that with or without a degree in another location. I can make money wherever I want to work, but I chose here. Why did I choose here? Okay, it's fast cash. I know that if I sell enough and if people like me just enough, they'll leave me that 20%, maybe even 18%. But by chasing after those numbers, we're immediately eliminating the purpose of why we dine out. We're eliminating the reason why people are joining together at a restaurant. One of my favorite mentors that I've had in my life, whenever we would have a staff meeting, did two things. First, there was always some food on the table. There was always food. It could just be a loaf of bread, but it was the practice of breaking bread together and being in community. Second was that there was an open chair, because it was who's not here that we're not including in this conversation, that we want to think about joining into our group or joining into the team. And I think both of those are actionable steps within our service as well and within our industry. I have two books that I carry around with me a lot. One I read in anticipation, like for the 50th time for this interview today, was Will Gridaro's Unreasonable Hospitality. That book, to me, that I hold on to as my reminder for every negative possibility that can happen when I walk into work, that somebody doesn't like me or I don't get the 20% tip. It's the conscious effort and reminder of saying, but I'm still here and I'm still doing the job. The second book is Mel Robbins' Let Them Theory, because I can't control where you're coming from. I can't control how you're feeling today. But what I can control is allowing you to feel that way, while also deciding for myself that my purpose within this interaction, my service to you, my hospitality to you today, is me choosing that even though you're hot or you're cold, I'm still going to show up with the same level of energy, so that hopefully I can turn that day around. I can turn this moment around. Right now, I've transitioned from working from nighttime into breakfast only. I've been doing breakfast for about 2 years. So my opportunity is to wake people up, and I'm pretty loud. I get a lot of questions in the morning, usually about like, what are you on? And it's always espresso and a dream, baby. Espresso and a dream, because that's how I start my day. It's my opportunity to say to the people that sit at my tables when they are quiet or when they're not showing as much engagement with me, of saying, it's okay, in 90 minutes we'll be best friends after I fed you, after you get that cup of coffee. And it happens every table, every day. Once again, I might never see you again, and I become that long distant relative that you call every time you want to show up for a bite to eat. But I will continue to repeat this again and again, and I'm sorry if it gets repetitive, but it's simply just, it is my responsibility. It's my job. And if I want to continue having my job, then I better do a pretty good job at making people feel like they're welcome.
And there's two things to that. One is that it is your job. And that's one thing that always just blows my mind, because I know for a fact that every manager talks about hospitality and guest experience in the interviews, right? They might not articulate it perfectly, but that's important to them, and they talk about it. And so, and I don't think anybody thinks is confused of why they're in this industry, right? We're here to be of service and to serve. Service, right? Hospitality, guest experience, gratitude, gratuity. And so I always tell people, you know, you signed up for this, right? You got this job saying, yes, I will. And there's no boss. I was like, hey, are you good at hospitality? And they're like, no. And they're like, okay, we're going to hire you anyway. Like, thanks for being upfront. No, you're saying, oh yeah, no, I'll be great. Hire me. No, I'm great. I love the guests. I love guest experience. I'm going to take care of them. That's my number one thing. That's all I care about. Okay, awesome. But then you don't want to live up to it, right? For whatever reason, all these excuses start pouring in, the management this, those coworkers that, the guests this, right? My personal stuff that, and all of a sudden these reasons of why you're not doing it or you're being a subpar version of it. When you did sign up for it, that's your word that you gave someone where they said, you know what, we'll trust you. We'll trust you with our business to take care of our guests, and we're trusting you. And you went back on it. You said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to live up to my word. And that's important. That's all you have, right? But number two is also one thing that I don't get about people is they're okay with spending a majority of their life practicing being mediocre. Practicing being an 80%, 70%, 60% version of themselves. Most people spend most of their lives working, right? Your waking hours, you're spending a majority of it working, minimum half of it, but more than that usually. And you're okay with saying, I'm going to show up as a 60, 70% version of myself. I'm not going to give it everything. And I have a reason why, right? Again, manager this, just coworkers that, guest this, personal life that. So I'm just gonna show up at 60 or 70%. A lot of it too is, this happens in our industry a lot, we deserve better. I should be somewhere else. I'm better than this serving job. I'm better than this hosting job. I'm better than this busing job. I'm better than this running job. And so I'm just gonna give 60 or 70%. When I get over here, then I'm gonna really give 100% of myself, right? I'm gonna show the world what I made of because I want this and I'm passionate about it. But over here, I'm only gonna give 60 or 70% because, you know, I deserve better and I'm better than this. I'm better than this serving gig, right? And that's where like people like Tyler Florence do this really well, where it's like, I tell people like the superpower is detaching your ego from your title and detaching your performance from your pay, right? So I perform at a high level. It doesn't matter how much I'm getting paid. That doesn't dictate my standards. Doesn't dictate I'm 120%. That's how I operate. I want to be the best in the room no matter what I'm doing. Do you know who Tyler Florence is?
I don't.
So he's a celebrity chef.
Okay.
Freaking crazy, all over Food Network, right? Has been on Food Network for like a long time. And also wrote a bunch of books and also has a lot of successful restaurants. And he doesn't do the whole, like, I put my name on it. He just opens really good restaurants, you know, and you're like, oh, this is owned by Tyler Florence. He's just great at running restaurants. And he's about as successful as you can be as a chef, right? Like you can't, like he took a career and became as successful as humanly possible in that career, which is a rarity in any career, right? I would say maybe Gordon Ramsay has more success, and then maybe Jamie Oliver. But outside of that, it's like Tyler Florence. And so I asked Tyler Florence, I was like, hey, what was your first job, you know, in the restaurant industry? And he's like, my first job was, I was a dishwasher. And I was like, oh, nice. And I was like, I can't picture Tyler, you know, big bad Tyler Florence being a dishwasher, you know? And I go, what were you like as a dishwasher? And I remember you were there for that interview too. I remember he got so serious and he leaned in and he goes, Preston, I was the best goddamn dishwasher to grace the face of this earth. And I laughed, you know, I kind of just chuckled because he was so freaking serious about it. And I kind of just all I did was laugh, and he kind of just didn't move a muscle. And I go, oh, you're serious? Like, tell me about that. You could tell. He's like, the pride. I had a freaking, my system, I was the fastest freaking dishwasher. The soap, I had it down to a T to where I never wasted soap. I would never waste the company's money on taking it out too early. But when Tyler Florence is in the kitchen, it's never going to be out of soap. You're not going to catch me dead with that soap empty. If I saw a server walking in the kitchen, I don't care if I couldn't even see them because there's so many plates stacked. I run out from behind the kitchen. I grab those plates all night long. Preston be pouring sweat. He was like, I was the best freaking dishwasher to grace the face of this earth. When you hear him talk about it and the freaking pride he had, right? Like, just not saying like, oh, dishwasher? Yeah, I mean, I was fine. I was good. But like, yeah, I was, you know, he wasn't like, oh man, one day they're going to see what I'm made of, you know, but till then I'm just going to, you know, this is just a dishwashing gig. I'm so much better than this, right? He didn't care. He removed his ego from his title and his performance from his pay. It wasn't about how much he got paid. It wasn't about the title. It was about, I'm doing something. And I'm going to be the best at it. Yeah. That's it. That's my freaking mindset. That's all. That's it. I attack, right? If life's too short to put titles on things and attach your ego to stupid things, right? And let my ego dictate my standards and my performance and the way I can change people's lives when I have that opportunity. Instead of wasting that, I'm just going to freaking be the best in the room. That's what I freaking do. And so seeing that, I was like, dude, it was like a light bulb. I was like, I understand, right? I get it. I get why you became Tyler Florence because that's the mentality it takes. And that's what I think, people in our industry especially just lack so much. It's like, man, take some freaking pride in what you do.
Absolutely.
Like you're doing something, you're doing hard work, and if you're doing it right, you're going to be changing people's lives. And it's a gift to have it. And we're lucky we're in a society where they say we'll tip you, right? We'll give you 20%. We will do it as a society. We all agree that we'll do it. And we get the opportunity to make a living off it and be able to be a part of it. So I think it's huge. So I love that you have that mentality, right?
Yeah,
And
well,
it's important.
I think language is everything too. Language is one of the most powerful, whatever you want to call it, gift, tool, that we have, and how we talk to others and how we talk to ourselves, either about others or about ourselves. And I just think that the way that we talk about what we do, the way that we engage with other people, I think it's really important that if you're working in the industry, that you're a people person, because we are people facing and we're going to be constantly surrounded by a different number of people every day. Slow day, maybe you have a guest come in. I know that there were days when I was working at my restaurant in Boston that on Monday nights after we opened Mondays and the theater district's dead, we'd have a single person walk in and I sat down playing checkboard with my bartender for 3 hours until we could close up shop. And then I know that there are days where a theater is bustling and there's going to be 4 rushes throughout a 3-hour period. Doesn't change how you show up though. It doesn't change how you talk about your income, because in Boston, I was making $3.25 an hour. So on those Monday nights where I was there for 4 hours, I was making $15 to go home with, and after taxes, it was 0. So I got paid nothing effectively to go in and sit down for 4 hours, but I got to play a game of great chess. And I got to have that opportunity to get to know my bartender more, which then led to me on days where it was crazy, I could look at him and know he had my back, and knew that if the drinks were dying at the well, he could pick them up and run them for me without any conversation. I think that language is really, really important, especially with how we talk about ourselves in our own mind. Going back to unreasonable hospitality for just a moment, there's that line that changed my life truly, of whenever somebody asks you, how's your day going? You say, well, I'm trying to make today the best day of my entire life. And even saying that out loud right now, the endorphins that are released in my brain, the chills that I get on my arms, do I believe it? Did I have the best service day today? Am I going home to my family tonight? No. But does it actually shift my brain space? Does it make me feel something? It does, because we're people, and people have power, and people use language to have further power. So I just think it's really, really critical, and we have to look through a critical lens of when we're at work or outside of work, that the language that we're using with ourselves, with our friends, most importantly in this conversation, with our guests and with the rest of our team, is pointed in a direction that we want to go towards. So if you're going to stay in the mentality of, well, I'm only giving 60% of myself, well, where's that other 40%? Why? Do you not value this? If you don't value it, what other opportunities do you have to get yourself to a place where you feel valued, where you feel 100%? And maybe that space in between those two places is a decade. Maybe you're looking to be a doctor and I can't be a doctor tomorrow because I need to go to med school. Okay, well, what do you have the opportunity to do right now? What do you have the opportunity to do today? And if you don't have an answer to that, that's okay too. But let's figure it out. Let's figure out where you're supposed to be. And maybe this location isn't the right one. That doesn't mean you get X'd out. It doesn't mean that you have no job or opportunity to have employment here. But maybe this isn't the best place for you. And without any ego, without any emotion towards that line, just saying, what is the best version that you can be today? And if it's not here, let's find the right place.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you're saying language, I say framing. I mean, it's the same thing, but it's like that's what it is. It's, in my opinion, it's how you frame things is everything. And what you just said, you do have the power to control what things are, right? And so it's easy to sit there and go, just another Monday or whatever, another Tuesday, right? I'm gonna walk in. There's gonna be no one that walks in all day long, right? All of a sudden, like you said, the way you're talking to yourself, it's just like you're just creating this bad night, right? Versus, hey, I'm gonna go in, play some chess, have some fun, connect with a friend, connect with a bartender, and then I'll be on my way. Like life could be worse, right? I could be freaking born, 100 years before this and living until I was 32, right? And getting killed by a cold.
Exactly.
Right? I could be living in a time where there's no running water and there's no cell phones and no electricity and no, like we live in one of the best times to be alive, and we have so much that we can do, right? And so many things that are accessible to us. Like I was at an airport and I was like kind of, I don't know why this kind of clicked, but I think it was like, there's like something playing or an ad and it was saying like when this airport was built, it was like way back in the day. And I was like thinking about it and I'm like, what's crazy is that there was a time before there was commercial flights. And so there was this idea, right? Imagine being in that time where there's this idea where they're like, we're going to come out with these commercial flights where you can fly to another country before you had to take a freaking boat, right? You can fly to another country or to across the country to another state or into the middle. You can travel so much easily. It's so much easier. And there's people that were like, oh my God, I can't wait. When's that airport going to open? There's excitement they must have had to be able to do that. And they had to wait, in anticipation for these airports and airplanes and systems to be built for them to do it. And they just had to sit there and wait. We just live in a society where we literally can, like, if we wanted to tonight, we can go freaking fly to another country.
Yeah.
We can buy the tickets and we can go to the airport, we can go fly to another country. So we live in a really good time. So it's like stopping for a minute and just saying like, that's, like, hey, like I'm going into work today. Life is good. Like I can make this the best freaking day. I can make this a good day. I can decide that this can be a good day, right? And I can really like power through that. And it takes a little bit, right? It's not going to always be like, oh, on. But that appreciation, and then just like you said, having a job and saying we're there. And listen, if this isn't for you, that's awesome. You will get there. But like, you have to earn it, right? We have to get there, right? I want to be this. Okay, cool. Let's practice at this job now. Show up as the best version of yourself, make a little bit of money, put some money in the bank, work towards that, maybe go to, again, the luxury of being able to go to school during the day and work at night, or go to work during the day and go to school at night, whatever it is. I can earn that while I'm doing this. I have a way to make a living and support myself while doing that, and then I can go on to that next role. But if I sit here and sulk and say how much it sucks and tips and this and that, I hate this and blah, 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 it's going to be a long road, right?
My collegiate mentor, his name is Michael Posnick. I'm dropping him a line here. His words or probably the next ones I'll get tattooed, but we have it hanging in my apartment right now. It's what you put your attention to grows. And I heard that every day for 4 years. And I believe that to be the truest statement of everything. What you put your attention to grows. If you foster a space in your brain, how you speak, everything is negative. There's a problem with everything. I'm not good enough. My tips aren't high enough. Table 26 is asking me for hot water and lemon. Great. Another no sales on drinks day. I can't sell a single dessert. My manager is mad at me because I was 15 minutes late. You let that all pile on. You are anticipating the rest of your day to be that way because that is what you are putting your attention to. So how can you reverse it? In the middle of a rush, in the middle of the craziest day of the year being Mother's Day, let's put it just because it was recent. I'm in the weeds. I can't take a breath of air. I don't have a moment to get a sip of water. My throat is dry. I'm running around. I've taken 10 miles around this restaurant in the last 3 hours. Okay, well, what opportunities do I have here? I might not have a moment to take a break, but can I pass a colleague and give that wink of an eye and just know, okay, my people are still here? Can I go up to that one table that has a kid who's been nagging and nagging and nagging and offer an opportunity to say, hey, what's going on here? How are you? Who are you and where are you coming from? It's a genuine investment in the process of what we do, of taking the time in between you taking the order and the food arriving to the table, that you have that leeway, especially if it's quiet and there's an awkward lull or people don't know how to make conversation happen at a table, that you can walk over and be that guide, that you can be that person. So whatever you're doing in whatever industry you're a part of, but specifically in the restaurant culture, if you put your attention to a place of money, if you put your attention to the place of I can't stand half of my guests, or I can't stand my management, or whatever that might be, that's only going to foster further. If you can allow yourself to think positively, and all of this is privilege, right? I mean, all of this is in a space of like, okay, you're watching this on this, wherever this is going, and you say, okay, here's another guy who's had it good. It's not always been good. Not every day is great. Today was not a great day for me, if I'm being very honest. And it still is making a choice of saying, okay, well, when you leave that door, when you leave your front door in the morning, when you leave the restaurant after you're done with work, when you take that breath, when you have the moment to finally breathe and say, this may all be true. My day may have sucked so far. I now have the opportunity to do something different with it. And for every person on earth, it's going to look very different. Maybe you can call a friend, you can call a mom, you can call a dad, you can go on a walk if you need some private time to yourself. Maybe it's, I'm going to go to Starbucks and get my favorite latte just so that I can sit and for that first sip know exactly how I'm going to feel once my endorphins are re-released, or that I can finally just say, I don't have to talk to anyone else for the rest of the night and I can go home and binge watch Bravo. It can be literally anything, you fill in the blank, but it's putting yourself in your own shoes to be able to take the walk in life of saying, this is my time. I can't get today back. I can't get back the last 5 hours that sucked. But you know what I can do? I can make the next 5 hours the best ones of my day. And whatever that looks like to me. That's legal, of course.
Legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree, and I you know, my viewpoint is, and we have the same viewpoint, just a different lens. But my viewpoint is, yes, like building yourself up as well. Like when you talk about getting time back, right? It's like, or your time. It's like, okay, if I'm going to spend 5 hours at a shift, that's going to be tough. And how do I build myself up? Because I talk about leveraging your time, and that's why I say like your tips just don't matter. You're going to make $200 that night. Awesome. I You know, I tell people all the time, you know, it's like I always say, like when you look back at high school, there's probably a couple of moments in high school that were so heavy. Mine was like, you know, me and my girlfriend had broken up in high school. And I remember thinking, like, this is it. Life sucks. It's over. You know, I just screwed up royally. My life will never be the same again. All this, it was so heavy. Right. And I look back now and I'm like, dude, like it wasn't. It had literally no impact on I have the best wife in the world. I make a great living doing something that I love. Like it just didn't stop anything from happening. It was just, but back then I was like, this is so heavy, so important. This is so important, right? It's more important than anything, and it wasn't. It was one of the least important things. And the same thing, it's like when you're going through like work and stuff like this moment, it's like these things aren't important. That $200 just isn't, I'm sorry, it's just not going to be important. Yes, it's going to help you pay bills in the immediate, but right, it's just not. You're going to look back, right, on your deathbed, you're like, oh, so glad I made that 200. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? It's like, think way bigger. Go big picture here. Like, and so when I say that is because you go into work, don't worry about the 200. You're not there for the 200. Don't devalue yourself at the 200, because I always go in a room and I ask people, I go, who here values their time? And everyone does this, right? Of course, right? But the truth is, most people don't value their time. They like the concept of valuing their time. They think they value their time, but they don't truly value their time. And the reason why I say that is because you're going to go into work and say you're going to make $300. Let's just say you make $50 an hour. You're going to go into work and say, okay, I'm going to sign off my time for $50 an hour. Sold. I now value myself at $50 an hour in this moment. Or I'm going to go into work and I'm going to, yes, get $50 an hour for my time. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this opportunity I have right now, this Mother's Day rush, right? Or this Monday when it's slow, whatever it is, right? You know, good shift, bad shift, doesn't matter. I'm going to go in at 8 hours. It's not about the freaking money. That's the least thing. That's the least value I'm getting from my money. What I'm going to do is leverage this day and these 8 hours into the next, and I'm going to have a compounding interest, and I'm going to keep letting it snowball until I can build myself up. And when that opportunity comes at me, I'm freaking ready, and I'm going to capitalize it. I'm going to seize it. And so Will Guidara, Unreasonable Hospitality, right? Great story, great example where he says, I'm just going to freaking pour everything into these restaurants that I work for to make them the best restaurants. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know the blueprint. I don't know where this is taking me, but I'm going to keep doing that and keep doing that, right? And now Will Guidara, when he's sleeping, right, his bank account's just growing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like book sold, right? He's just sitting there like appearance, all this stuff. And there's a saying by Napoleon Hill, the man who does more than what he's paid for will soon be paid for more than what he does. And Will Guidara freaking is just proof of that, right? Will Guidara wasn't like, one day I'm going to be selling all these books. He was just like, I'm going to give it everything. Always. That's it. I don't care if I'm working in that little rinky-dink restaurant or if I'm working for Danny Meyer's little QSR where he's like, just go handle the QSR, Will, right? But yes, sir. I'm gonna make it the freaking best QSR there is, right? And then he gets 11 Madison, boom, and it's just like, and now that's what I'm saying. He leveraged his time, right? It's like, how do we leverage our time from going $50 an hour to $500 an hour to $5,000 an hour, right? But we leverage our time to get better, or we leverage our time for fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment, right? I'm gonna come in here and yes, the $50 is nice, but I'm also going to fulfill myself by filling other people, right? And giving people an amazing experience, being cognizant of that. But the worst way that you can spend your time is actually just trading it straight up for money.
Correct.
That's the absolute worst way you can view it. And that's what most people do. And that's why I try and tell people, like, dude, like, it's not about the money. It's not about the tip. I promise. Oh, I'm going to pay my bills with hospitality. It's like, dude, I get it, but it's not, I'm just telling you, like, think about it. Just go big picture for a second, right? And that unlocks a lot of things for you, because it's just like this. There's a little light. I'm like, it's just expand it a little bit, because there's so much more that life offers, that you can offer life, that you can do, that you can accomplish. But everybody just tip, right?
Everything is momentary, is my biggest first reaction to that. Bad days, good days, all of it. It's all momentary. It's day to day. It's moment to moment. And also, once again, just recognizing my gratitude for having this conversation right now, but recognizing the privilege that I have to sit in this chair. I've worked in many locations with people who are from all different diverse aspects of the human experience. I've worked with people that are in the restaurant work and their parents are filthy rich, and it's just, we need you to understand how life works a little bit. But don't worry, your bills are still covered. So they don't care about how much money they're making when they walk in the door. In fact, I've worked with those people who give out their tips to their fellow staff members at the end of the night because they don't need it. And then I've worked with people that have no one to call home to, that don't have a family, that didn't receive an education, that dropped out of high school and ended up in wherever they are, in whatever restaurant, in whatever field. And I just think it's really important to highlight the privilege here with that, and saying that, of course, and I'm so with you in that mentality, but also recognizing that for some people, jumping into a gambling kind of position, because restaurant work, depending on where you are, can be a gamble. It can be, okay, I'm here because I'm only after the money, which I just think is the wrong way to walk into it in general. But for the people that do, I think there's a gamble aspect, because you are gambling. Will people come in? Will they drop me the 20%? Will somebody be kind enough to drop me the $100? Will I give enough of myself? Will that be enough? And that's why, for so much of what you've said already, I think it's super important to highlight on the fact that as people, we have the value structure to walk into a space for work and just give 110% of ourselves, because that's what we have the ability to do. It's the choice that we make. And also saying that when you're at your weakest link, or you're on your worst day, or that, okay, it's the second of the month and my entire bank account has just been depleted because I paid my rent, because I paid all the bills that compiled up, and now I'm back at square one and I have nothing and I have no one to call, and I don't know what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight, and I hope to God there's a family meal. That's when I look at some people and I just say, like, what can we do together? That's where community comes in. So I just highlight privilege and opportunity there as well, because depending on who's watching, it's just important for all angles, I think.
Sorry, because clarify that a little bit more.
Yeah. So from just walking in life, and I've lived in many locations. I'm a Sagittarius, so I can't sit still for longer than like 3 years of time. But I've worked with people who have lots of privilege, and I've worked with people where privilege is seen as like, I'm the underdog here, and I can't take the next step forward. I'm hesitant to, because of my experience, because of the baggage that I bring with me, or my life experience thus far, and saying, okay, I grew up in the foster care system, and I got kicked out when I was 18, and I ended up in hospitality because that was the easiest job for me to get without having, degrees, or not, like we were saying before about, not having a degree, but having education within the working environment. I still think that there's opportunity to show up as the best version of yourself, even on the hardest days.
Yeah. And I'm sober, so that came with its own challenges. Yeah. And
that's a daily commitment.
Yeah.
So good for you.
Thank you. And part of that though was, we have the same, I think, viewpoint, because we probably had around the same struggles, right? I had points where I didn't know what I was going to eat for dinner. I had for points where I didn't have a car and I was trying to drive and get to work and get back, and I would try and sleep on people's floors and couches because they're close to my work and I can walk there. I remember one time I drove to work and I had no gas money, and I was trying to make money, and I had no gas money, no gas. And so I drove to work and I was like, I'm going to pick up a shift. Right? And the way I'm going to pick up that shift is I'm going to show up in my uniform. I'm going to ask every single person if they want to go home so I can work, put some gas in my car, have a little bit of money, and get something to eat. And no one would give me their freaking shift. And I wasted I had no gas
to get to there.
To get there, I wasted all my gas. So I luckily, because it was like my job was like 30 minutes away, and luckily I had tips in the bank or in the safe that I forgot about, and that like filled up my tank. So I definitely get that it's not all rainbows and unicorns for everybody, and obviously going through trials and tribulations with sobriety, you get to hear a lot of stories too of like, damn, right, like wow, like it gets dark, and that's I think where this messaging almost resonates to me personally, my experience the most, where it's like, look, like you can always persevere. You can always overcome. And again, kind of to your point of where you're saying, I want to make this the best day ever. Like we can, it's not necessarily that exact framing, but it is that, hey, I can do anything at this point still, right? There's just no matter, because I've heard some stories where you're like, you would think someone could never get out of those depths of hell, right? Of things that they've done, things that happened to them, stories that they've been told, family members, all this stuff. Like you're like, most people would just say, I give up. I'm just going to feel sorry for myself, right? Versus the people that got back up on their feet and they said, no, I'm not going to let this hold me down. I'm not going to there's more to life and I want to experience it. And at the very least, I want to give back, right? That's my biggest thing. So I totally agree with you on that. I think we're aligned, right? That's what you're saying?
No, 100%.
Okay,
yeah.
cool, yeah.
I think a lot of the communities that I've worked within outside of the industry, but within education settings, have primarily been inner city. I've worked in very, what I think a lot of people would say would be tough locations, for whatever reason you want to identify there as tough. I know for me, I was very privileged growing up. I grew up in downtown Chicago, so I was in inner city myself. And then we got moved to a very swanky, flanky Milford, Connecticut, which thankfully I got accepted to that art school because that was much more diverse. It was a space where I got to see people that didn't look like me, that didn't have my background, people that taught me so much and shaped the person that I am in front of you. And that's why I always enter every space in thinking about the privileges that I've had, the privilege that I have in this body as a male in this skin, as decorated as it become. But it's just important to me as I'm analyzing my own experience to be open to the fact that other people haven't been as privileged. And so I'm totally aligned with you, while also recognizing that people could be watching this and say, okay, well, here's another dude who's got it lucky and he's happy and everything's great and yay. And the reality is that my life is not one big yay day, is that there is a conscious choice every day to wake up and say, it's not my job to walk in and tell all of my guests about the crap that I'm going through. It's my job to show up and give them a warm, inviting space so that they can enjoy their experience.
And that's also a superpower.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because that be able to do that at work spills into your personal life, and you being able to stop and persevere and get through it, right? And just kind of, because there's that layer that sometimes you wake up with, at least I do, right? Where I'm just like, it's just like,
yeah,
everything sucks, right? And you're just like, and then you have to stop and go, hold on, let's just assess here for a minute. Is everything as bad as I think it is? And you realize it's not, and you move forward. So totally agree, man. But that's a framework I want to help try and put together, where it's like, what does that look like when you wake up? And it's gonna be different for everybody, but how do you kind of, couple of steps you can take in the morning to go, wait a minute, things aren't that bad, right? I think I saw this online where this guy walks up, he's talking to someone, he goes, if I give you a suitcase full of $10 million, would you be excited? Yeah, of course I'd be excited. Yeah. Okay, but what if I told you you couldn't wake up tomorrow? Well, no, I wouldn't be excited. Okay, what if I made it $50 million, but you couldn't wake up tomorrow? No, I wouldn't want it. So waking up tomorrow morning is worth more than $50 million. Yeah. Okay, so you're probably smiling when you wake up tomorrow morning, right? And I'm like, damn, it's like that puts perspective on it. Yeah, you're like, okay, yeah, because you forget.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's just another day. It's like, it's just another fucking day.
Yeah.
Congratulations, right?
You're here.
You're here. Like it is what it is. Let's fucking do this. Let's have some fun and just make it what it is instead of like, looking at all the negative, which is what our minds always go towards, right?
Yeah. I have a set of regulars that come in almost every day in the morning just to have a beer at the bar. And it's my first beer of the day is what they say every day they come in. And every time that I ask them, you're like, how's your day going? How's life? It's, well, I woke up today, so it's a great day. And I think it takes aging. It takes getting to a point of recognizing, wow, life has really like crumpled my body a little bit, and I don't have as close of a relationship with this person that I used to, and all of these other factors that make it so difficult and challenging. But truly being able to acknowledge that, okay, yeah, no, but I did wake up today, and I rolled out of bed, and I got dressed, and I'm here.
Yep.
And
Everyone's
now we have
healthy.
opportunity.
Yep. Exactly. All right, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you being here. It was an honor. Yeah,
Such an
really.
honor.
You inspired
Yeah.
me a lot. So thank you so much.
You inspire a lot of people with the work that you do. So thank you for what you do too.
Well,
And
thank
getting
you,
out the good messaging.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.